Hello, hello, hello. How we doing, everybody? Getting ourselves situated this morning. Boom, we're back. Had a little market holiday yesterday, but we're back in business here this morning and got plenty to go over. Very excited to dive into what we have going on today. Let me get all this stuff out of the background. All right. Cool. Yes, good morning. Good morning. Hope everybody had a nice, restful, restorative weekend. Got the day off yesterday. I need this camera to focus in on me. I'll probably be switching maybe to a different camera than this webcam to do the live streams because this camera doesn't seem to want to cooperate. Let's turn this down a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I just need this camera to focus in. There we go. When we focus in, it does a beautiful job. But when it's not focused, it struggles, right? Just like, us as people. When you're focused in and you know what you're looking at, you do a great job. When you're unfocused, things are blurry and you struggle to execute. So I guess that could be kind of our, metaphor for the morning, allegory for the morning is making sure that you're focused on executing. Focused on what you need to be focused on the pivotal points of your game plan that allow you, to execute and lock down profit and do so consistently. When you're focused on all these different auxiliary things, whether that be, different indicators or this or that, you start to struggle a little bit because you lose focus on the goal and what you're there for. So we're all resolving to stay focused this morning, make sure that we are locked in. And I'm going to get together what I need here for this morning's pre-market rundown. As you guys know, Monday, we normally go through the week ahead as well as, that specific day's news. So we'll go back and do our week ahead segment for this week. And then we'll cover our, Monday specific or Tuesday specific news now as well. Let's see here. They have us with an old week ahead. Can we get a new guy? What do they have going on for us? This should have come in on like Sunday. The most recent one they have is the 12th. By the way, everybody, make sure you're coming in, throwing in those ones, right? Signifying your intention to get 1% better by the end of this session. We've got the challenge kicking off tomorrow by what is it? By golly, if you aren't registered for that challenge, I don't know what to tell you. You must not like money. You must not like leveling up because that's exactly what is in store for those that are in that virtual room. So please, I don't have anything else left to sell you on. Like I don't have any way to sell you. To be honest, I'm not really looking to do so. Either you recognize the value of having a blueprint for literally how to trade bull markets and bear markets, for how to go in and set up your pre-market levels before you trade, ways that will allow you to immediately learn to enter day trades and swing trades. If you don't value any of that, that's cool. But I'm not going to be forcing it down your throat, right? If you know that you need to be in that room, be in that room. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make them drink. By now, if you haven't signed up, you might have a reason. But at the end of the day, you got to be in that room because absolutely amazing information is going to be conveyed. And I'm so happy for it. Because of that and making sure that everything's in place with that, I don't know how much trading I'll be personally doing over the course of the next few days. Like whenever I have a challenge, the challenge takes precedent. So that's really what I'm focused on, throughout the week, making sure that everything is set up and ready to go with that, ready to go for that. So that is by far my focus this week, but we'll still, go over and I'll still be here for the pre-market rundowns. I think if anything changes, I'll let you guys know. But as of right now, still planning to be here for these. I won't be physically in this location, but I will still be trying to go live here for the pre-market rundowns. Now, in terms of the week ahead, let's dive into it. We have two retail heavyweights that could provide the headlines for the holiday shortened trading week. Walmart, ticker WMT, and Home Depot, ticker HD, are both due to report Q4 earnings on February 21st, with analysts anticipating solid numbers for the holiday quarter and cautious guidance for the year ahead. While the retail sales report for January was stronger than anticipated, the conference call cadence from Walmart and Home Depot on current trends could impact the broad market. Notably, both stocks trail the S&P 500 for the early part of the year. On the economic calendar, updates include the latest PMI prints, existing home sales, FOMC minutes, Q4 GDP revision, and the highly anticipated core PCE prices read on inflation. The corporate calendar is loaded as the CAGNY conference is typically chock full of guidance updates from consumer companies, and the Barclays Industrials Conference will include appearances from dozens of airlines, trucking, and logistics companies. Williams Company, ticker WMB, will also hold a key investor event. The busy week ahead has contributors buzzing. Let's see what else we got right on this calendar, because again, we want to make sure we're double checking, triple checking what we got in the week ahead. It looks like today we get existing home sales outside of earnings. That's the biggest thing. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., we get FOMC minutes. That's huge, right? That's probably going to be the thing that this week's movement hinges on, other than on Friday, right? But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, again, second half of the week is really when things pick up. Wednesday at 2 p.m., we've got FOMC minutes. So we've got the Fed, releasing their Fed minutes. I don't think we have Powell speaking. We just have the FOMC minutes. So that'll be big, right? Wednesday. Then Thursday, we've got initial jobless claims and GDP, the first revision. So initial jobless claims and GDP data. That'll be important there, pre-market. And then Friday, we've got the PCE index, right, which is the Fed's preferred measure of inflation. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we've got big news coming out. So all three of those days, right, we could see volatility pre-market, and that's definitely something you need to have, as part of the agenda. Be factoring that into your trade plan throughout the week. Again, how do you make sure that you're not subjecting yourself to the volatility of those events? Well, at least for Thursday and Friday, it's just by trading intraday, right? If you swing something, it's going to be subject to whatever news comes out, on Thursday morning, on Friday morning. The jobless claims data, the GDP data, the PCE index data, right? If you swing anything, you have to understand and factor that into, your risk assessment, that it will be subject to that data that comes out. So whatever you swing, right, it's risky if you're swinging it into Friday, Thursday and Friday. And then, of course, FOMC minutes will get that volatility there in the middle of the day. But we do have, kind of a chopped week, kind of an easy beginning of the week. Well, actually, really the beginning of the week is just today. Right after that, we're diving kind of head first into things. We've got a couple of important earnings this week. We've got Home Depot, we've got Walmart, and I believe that we have Nvidia as well. So a number of big names, right, that people care about, household names to keep a lookout on. So I'm excited to kind of get into that. I think I had a more coherent list of those here. Yes. So earnings spotlight Tuesday, which is today, we get Walmart, Home Depot. Those are really the big two. Caesars Entertainment is also on there, ticker CZR. They might also see a pop, just like DraftKings did because of the expansion in gambling, right, when it comes to sports betting. Caesars might see that as well. We all see, the Jamie Foxx commercials. Earnings spotlight Wednesday. We've got Baidu, ticker BIDU reporting, TJ Maxx, ticker TJX, NVIDIA, ticker NVDA, Etsy, and Lucid, all reporting on Wednesday. So a number of names there. Thursday, we've got Alibaba, ticker BABA, BABA, Wayfair, ticker W, Moderna, ticker Devitt is MDNA, but it's mRNA. Domino's Pizza, ticker DBZ. We've got Block, formerly known as Square, reporting on Thursday as well. Their ticker is SQ. And that's really kind of the last of the big guys. But NVIDIA is definitely the biggest name this week. Huge tech company, right? A lot of people think the end in FANG now should be NVIDIA, and rightly so. They're a company that is kind of predicated on building the future, and their chips go into everything. So that will definitely be kind of the biggest headliner of earnings this week would be NVIDIA. Tomorrow, let's see here. Anything else that's important coming up? Not really for the week ahead, so we're just going to dive into what we've got going on here for our individual news today. And again, good morning for everybody popping in. Yes, Alicia said excited for tomorrow. I'm freaking excited for tomorrow. If you're excited for tomorrow, you're excited for the challenge kicking off, make sure that you throw a 5 in the chat. I'm super, super excited to get in there, to get going. And I just think that while you want to bring your expectations, you also want to just not overwhelm yourself, right? Treat it like an extension of our Thursday Q&As, right? For my people that have taken stock options made easy, because a lot of times coming into events, people get very like in their head. They're like, oh man, I got to be ready for this. Like, I got to be ready for this challenge. Like, I got to be locked in. Like, I've got to have meditated for like 27 hours, and I need to make sure that I wake up and I take a cold shower, and I like, you don't have to treat it like the Olympics, right? You want to come with expectations, but you also don't want to make there be kind of build things up so high that in your head you're anxious about it and you don't come there ready to receive, right? You put walls up because you're like, all right, I know that this is huge and I'm here and I'm ready for it, and you've got your walls up and you don't actually receive it, right? So understand that you want to come there with expectations. You want to come there, with goals in mind, trying to accomplish things, but also don't build it up in your head so much to the point where you're like, you're overwhelmed, right? A lot of us can turn excitement into overwhelm, and I don't want you to do that, right? I always try and maintain very safe environments, very easy, comfortable environments, and this is no different, right? So make sure you come in, you're ready to learn, ready to receive, but also you're not building this up in your head to the point where you get there and you're frozen and you're just listening to information and not internalizing it, right? Y'all are cool, I'm cool, we're family, we can continue to learn together, but I don't want people like sort of intimidated because they're like, oh, I've been waiting for this event, and then it comes, and then you're like, I have, 1,000 questions or things that I need clarification on and I didn't ask Adam. Right? Make sure that you're ready for that, that you're locked in, but that you're not freaking out about it, right? Because there's no reason to freak out. We're just looking to succeed. We're looking to thrive. We're looking to grow. We're looking to build, and we're looking to make some freaking money. So just make sure you show up for that, but that you're not like freaked out about it, because I know how people can get. I know how I can get. So just make sure you're not too in your head about it, and you're just ready to put some work in. In terms of our top Tuesday news specifically, we've got military aid topping headlines. As Russia's war in Ukraine approaches its grim first anniversary, President Biden made a surprise trip to Kiev on Monday to walk the streets of the capital and keep allies unified in their support for Ukraine. Air raids, sirens even howled as he and Volodymyr Zelensky wrapped up a visit to the Gold Dome St. Michael's Cathedral in a show of solidarity that took Biden 2 plane trips and a 10-hour overnight train ride to reach his final destination. The brutal war has caused widespread destruction, killing tens of thousands of civilians and soldiers, and comes as both sides prepare for bigger offensives in the spring. Snapshot: with no meaningful changes on the ground for months, President Biden announced the 32nd package of another $450 million in American military aid for Ukraine. It will include air defense radars, Javelin anti-armor systems, who are made by Lockheed Martin in conjunction with Raytheon. Those are both publicly traded companies, so LMT and RTX, both tickers that we've talked extensively about. But this package includes air defense radars, Javelin anti-armor systems, and artillery ammunition, despite concerns that Ukraine may be draining ammo faster than the West can supply it. Long-range weapons were also discussed, though there was no mention of Lockheed Martin F-16 fighter jets, which would upgrade Ukraine's firepower, but could also escalate the situation with the ability to strike deep into Russia. So that's the whole thing, is that it looks like Biden is trying to supply them with mostly defensive capabilities, right? We don't want them being able to actually fire missiles deep into Russia, because at that point, Russia might just nuke. So, it's kind of one of those things where it's a balancing act. You don't want to provide them with too much power, but Biden's looking to provide them with enough power to defend themselves. I'm not here to argue the merit of, pouring all this money into Ukraine. I'm sure that this situation goes deeper than any of us from the outside can actually understand. I think that's what's important, right? Everybody in 2023 has their own opinion, but at the end of the day, unless you're sitting there in the Oval Office, you don't know the totality of what's going on, right? The average person doesn't. There's intel that we're not privy to. There's information that we're not privy to. You've got to understand, again, that Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. If they take it, they have all of Europe and really all of the world in a chokehold. So when people are saying, oh, we're sending all that money over there, this world is very, very tiny. And again, there's people within the U.S. that need the money. I'm not here to argue that, but I'm also saying that you just thinking that, this is just some run-of-the-mill conflict that doesn't matter. I think this past year showed us that it very much does matter, considering the fact that this war is helping continue to keep inflation elevated, right? So for everybody who's like, oh, it doesn't matter, like this, Ukraine, that directly affects us, right? And Russia's strength directly affects us. This is the tensest. This is the most heightened the tension between us in the East has ever been, between the U.S. and China and the U.S. and Russia. And we're literally this close to war with both of them. So it's just like, for everyone who, says this isn't a big deal, we're quite possibly living in one of the most pivotal points in history for the last 50 years, considering the fact that every major trend that has shaped us up into this point is changing, right? Globalization. Throw a 7 in the chat for the big 7, right? The death of globalization and the rise of protectionism. We're no longer producing what we do best and exporting what we do best. Everybody's looking to move production in-house. Why? Because global relationships are breaking down. The global supply chain broke down, and now global relationships are breaking down. No, everybody is fighting for their own, right? It used to be like, oh, hey, like we're all living together. I'll send you this stuff, you send me that stuff. Now it's no dice, right? Everybody's saying, look, I'll make my own stuff. I don't need you. I don't like you. And that's it, right? And that's where we're at. And that's a very, very tough place to be when it comes to prices, because all that does is increase prices in the short term for everyone. So again, making sure that you're seeing the full picture instead of whatever quote unquote woke picture, whatever side of the media you're on wants to tell you, right? Because you tune into Fox, they tell you very biased things. You tune into CNN, they tell you very biased things. You need to make sure that you're here taking in information for yourself and then using that to draw conclusions instead of drawing conclusions along party lines or because somebody who has a primetime spot told you this is what you need to believe. In terms of quotes here, let's see. So the U.S. has already made several U-turns, or excuse me, not quotes yet. We're getting to some quotes. The U.S. has already made several U-turns on supplying more advanced weapons to Kiev, including heavy artillery, M1 Abrams tanks, and the Patriot missile defense system. Washington has also sought to prevent Beijing from supplying Moscow with arms, though Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin recently said the U.S. was in no position to make demands. In terms of defense spending, seeking alpha contributor trade theory still calls dividend aristocrat General Dynamics the best war coupon for 2023, given the rising threat environment surrounding Ukraine. So General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin are all, Raytheon are all companies that are on tap, on watch. Given the current global climate, Lockheed Martin is a company that we traded a number of times last year, right? Very profitable. That, tends to be my just preferred out of all of them because I have the most experience with it. I'm comfortable with it. So LMT is kind of where I gravitate toward. In terms of quotes, freedom is priceless. It's worth fighting for as long as it takes. And that's how long we're going to be with Mr. President, Biden said at a press conference with Zelensky. When Putin launched his invasion nearly 1 year ago, he thought Ukraine was weak and the West was divided. He thought he could outlast us, but he was dead wrong. The cost that Ukraine has had to pay is extraordinarily high. The sacrifices have been far too great. We know that there will be very difficult days and weeks and years ahead, but Putin's war of conquest is failing. So, yeah, that's really all you need to hear regarding that situation. He's saying that there will be very difficult days, weeks, and years ahead. So this isn't a short-term conflict. We said that at the beginning of this a year ago. We're saying it again now. This is something that everyone is preparing to be a long, drawn-out conflict. And at this point, we are at war with Russia, right? It's a proxy war. But if I'm fighting someone and you're supplying that person with weapons, I'm at war with you, right? We're not cool. So it's like we basically are at war with Russia. We're supplying weapons to people that are fighting them directly. We're not fighting them directly, but this is as close as we can get to fighting them without us being directly at war. So these defense companies are still on tap here. And again, listen to what is being said. He mentioned years for a reason. Difficult days, weeks, and years ahead. This isn't something that's looking to be a quick resolution. This is a war of attrition, meaning it's a war for time. How long can one side last versus the other? Who's going to capitulate first? Russia or the U.S., the East or the West? That's what it's down to. But at the end of the day, while this continues, inflation in some areas is going to remain high. Like inflation is going to remain high as long as this war is going on, because this war drives up the price of everything, right? Fertilizer, which is used obviously for crops, right? Russia has a stranglehold on fertilizer production. We did fertilizer trades last year. in terms of, wheat and foodstuffs coming out of the Ukraine, right? All of that affects global prices. So when you're fighting a war against inflation, it's not just a war using interest rates, right? That's to control inflation within the U.S. But there are inflationary forces that are at play outside of the U.S. that Powell cannot control, right? That is what this war is fighting to try to tame. So that's kind of how you need to be thinking about it, because at the end of the day, if this happens and Russia has a stranglehold on the world's bread or Europe's breadbasket, like that severely cripples all of our allies, right? That drives up their prices, which drives up our prices. So this isn't something, again, that is isolated from us, right? This is directly impacting us. Now, in terms of response, while the battlefield losses have piled up for Russia, its economy has so far survived the sweeping sanctions that have led it to become increasingly isolated on the world stage. On the heels of Biden's visit to Kiev, Vladimir Putin also gave a speech this morning to the country's political and military elite, updating them on his special military operation in Ukraine. We were doing everything possible to solve this problem peacefully, but NATO covered us with an umbrella. I want to repeat, it is them who are culpable for the war, and we are using force to stop it, he said to great applause, while thanking people in the separatist regions of Donetsk and Luhansk for being together with your motherland, and that means we become even stronger. So tons of inflammatory political rhetoric, both from Russia and from Biden. And again, this member of the Big Seven, right? The 7 factors that are shaping how markets are moving. This member of the Big Seven looks like it's going to be a member of the Big Seven for a while. So make sure that you're aware of what's going on with this war, with these headlines, with these expectations, and that way you can factor it in to your expectations for markets as well. In terms of earnings, retail on tap. Talked about how we have Walmart here today. Comparable sales are forecast to rise 4.9% during the quarter after stripping out fuel revenue and expect executives to discuss inventory issues. So comparable sales are expected to rise 4.9% after stripping out fuel revenue and expect executives to discuss inventory issues, freight costs, vendor relationships, and supply chain challenges on the conference call. I feel like that should have been broken in 2 sentences, and that was very sloppily constructed in terms of grammar. Overall, analysts see a more cautious tone from the company due to the competitive environment and choppy economic backdrop, but see what Seeking Alpha Marketplace author The Value Pendulum views as key items to consider. Keep another eye on Home Depot earnings in the pre-market session, with macro factors in focus as the retailer attempts to maintain sales momentum after a pandemic-driven boom. In terms of tech news here, paid verification. Taking a page from Elon Musk's Twitter playbook, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg has confirmed a similar subscription service. Meta Verified will allow users to verify their accounts using a government ID with prices starting at $11.99 per month on the web or $14.99 per month on iOS and Android. It's mainly targeted at content creators, enabling them to expand their communities with a blue verification badge, extra impersonation protection, and direct access to customer support. Quote, this new feature is about increasing authenticity and security across our services, Zuckerberg added in a Facebook post. We'll be rolling it out in Australia and New Zealand this week and more countries soon. Overall, what do I think about it? It's funny. I actually just recently found out that I could become verified just because, whenever you're involved in publications or news articles or anything like that, apparently you can use that as grounds for verification. I just thought you had to be famous. But I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was informed that I could be verified. So I was looking into doing that and getting that done. But then, now they come out with this and it tarnishes it a little bit because I'm like, oh, all right, well, I could have been, verified before, but now you can just pay to get verified. It's not as cool. But I do think it's smart because at the end of the day, bots are horrible. Bots are horrible on Instagram. Scams are horrible on Instagram. And I think that this will help with that because you guys know you get so many fake accounts following you and so many fake accounts that fool so many people, right? And the worst thing that I can imagine is people getting scammed by fake Adam Holland Educates accounts, right? I don't want that happening. I don't want people saying, hey, I've got this new course coming out. It's only $30, right? Venmo me here. And then suddenly that's not me, right? And people are swindled. So at the end of the day, regardless, I'm looking to do that because I want, people to know that, especially as I'm looking to grow and ingratiate more people into this community, that it's me that's talking and not somebody else because scammers are relentless. I'm sure we all know, we get the texts, we get the emails. Hey, Jan, is this you from spin class? No, it's not. It's literally a scammer who's texting now, right? So we've got people texting, emailing. I don't need all that. At the end of the day, I support it. Zuckerberg taking an idea from someone else. What else is new, right? That's literally his whole MO. Elon Musk, of course, came out to toot his own horn saying that he knew that Mark Zuckerberg, the Lizard King, would have to copy him. So he's not surprised. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it ends up helping rather than hurting things. And everybody says, "Oh, paying for verification, da da da. This isn't good." Whatever, man. At the end of the day, people need to know who it is they're following, and make sure that it's not a bot. So I'm sure that hackers and schemers and scammers will probably find some way to get fake verification badges as well. But until that happens, right, we'll take the short-term win and looking for that to get rolled out soon. In terms of outlook, Gonzalez versus Google. The future of online speech is up for discussion at the Supreme Court as justices begin to hear oral arguments today in a showdown against Google and the social media world. The case surrounds the death of Nohemi Gonzalez, a 23-year-old American who was killed in the November 2015 Paris attacks, and specifically calls into question Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which was passed back in 1996 in the early days of the internet. SCOTUS will also hear a similar case against Twitter later this week. So I mean, we've got, big tech under the gun. What else is new? They tend to always be getting sued or standing trial or in front of some committee, right? I feel like there's just another week in the big tech world. But we'll see if there ends up being anything kind of like negative that comes about. I'm sure we'll see it manifest, but I don't really think every time Google or Facebook or Apple is involved in like a suit that is going to affect the stock, right? Just because they're involved in it. If there's some negative ruling, then maybe, but I don't see this, having a material effect on Google, more so than what the larger market trends are already. Now, in terms of today's markets were mostly red across the board in Asia. I don't know if that's the same, if that case is the same now. I can't stream live on YouTube and also have up Thinkorswim, so I can't tell if this is the same. But in Asia, Japan were down 0.2%, Hong Kong down 1.7%, China were up 0.5%, India flat. The FTSE in London down 0.3%, Paris down 0.5%, Frankfurt down 0.5%, the Dow down 0.8%, S&P down 0.9%, NASDAQ down 1%, gold down 0.4%, Bitcoin down 0.6% to $24,711. There's really nothing big on the economic calendar. At 10 a.m. we get existing home sales, but is that going to be a mover? In terms of what else is happening, our rapid fire bullet point rundown here to close us out. China moving out of favor as the world's production house. That has been something that's been happening, right? You see, other Asian countries that are kind of taking that role, as well as India. India is really kind of supplanting China as that like growth, that kind of growth, powerhouse, right? So we're seeing India rise, we're seeing countries like Vietnam and, South Korea and different countries like that where now, there's a lot of production being done there. So China kind of moving out of favor as that global production house where everything is manufactured. Elliott said to offer financing for Manchester United bid. Does January surge in retail sales point to resilience or last hurrah? So it's basically like, does this surge in retail sales say that, okay, the consumer is resilient, or is this the last hurrah that we see before, the consumer is like, yo, I'm done. I got nothing left. And then falls off a cliff. I also want to point out the fact that we have been seeing increased delinquencies, and we've also been seeing increased credit card debt. This was something that I talked about to start the year as the biggest issue facing this potential bull market rally. What is the biggest issue facing it? It is consumer debt. Consumer debt hit a record high. I'm just looking through all these posts that I was seeing. Hit a record high of 16.9 trillion as delinquencies continue to rise. So in the beginning of the year, I talked about how the biggest issue and the biggest threat to this bull market and this run that we're seeing, and the biggest threat to yank us back down into the bear's cave was going to be the credit card bubble, right? The debt bubble. Right now we have a bubble where people went out and they purchased all these things they couldn't really afford, with stimulus checks and when interest rates were low. And now they're, coming back and they have to pay the piper. And after a year of increased prices and having to pay on average an extra $700 to $1,000 per month just to exist, right? The average person has not been paying their credit card bills. And as a result, we're having credit card debt and consumer debt hit record highs of 16.9 trillion. And we have household savings at all-time lows. That is not where you want to be, where you're owing the most you ever owed, right? The American people, and they have the least amount saved possible. That is a recipe for disaster, right? It says credit card balances have hit a record high of $986 billion in the U.S. The previous high for record credit card balances was set before the pandemic. And, also seeing here, Americans have nearly $1 trillion in credit card debt. So it's just like all these different, and we're starting to see delinquencies increase. So this is what I was talking about, right? People not being able to pay off their credit card debt, and then that causing ripple effects throughout the market. Banks were preparing for this during their earnings season. They're keeping a bunch more cash on tap because they're anticipating people not being able to pay back their debt. So this is the biggest threat that, we're being faced with in 2023. This is something I talked about back in January, right? And we're starting to see that happen right now in real time. So make sure you're tuning in here at the Premarket Rundown so that you're aware of this stuff, so that you see the writing on the wall before it happens, right? In terms of, let's see what we got going on here. Steep fall in Amazon. Shares hit employee compensation plan. Greater electrification. Uber now pushing EVs in India. Tesla may be weighing takeover bid for Sigma Lithium. I'm sure that's something that will cause, maybe Sigma Lithium to see some speculation from that. Their ticker is SGML. So again, that would be completely speculative, meaning, a gamble, a guess. But if Tesla does buy them out, they're going to run, right? That's just how it is whenever a company gets acquired. And again, these companies are out here looking for lithium so that they can create these batteries that will power the future. So lithium, a rare earth metal that is something that we talked about in the last challenge, right? Last summer. And we're seeing, that battle for lithium continue to heat up. Another earthquake shakes the battered Turkey-Syria border. There's really it's just heartbreaking, to be honest, that that's the situation. I saw those posts. I thought that they were old posts just being showed out of chronological order. But there's another earthquake. So, sending prayers to everyone right now in Turkey, also sending money, right? Donating money to everybody there that's having to deal with this. I couldn't imagine the situation. It's just crazy. Turkey is situated along a fault line. So if you're along a fault line, right, literally where the tectonic plates are grinding against each other, you're going to have issues like this. And it's horrible. It's a horrible situation the whole way around. But yeah, just, doing what we can here, sending sympathies to them. And also if you have the means, sending donations in order to help the people that are there, it'll go a long way. And let's see here, COVID vaccine sales to see decline through the end of the decade. NBA inks new strategic partnership with China's Ant Group, who's, owned by Baba. And then TV usage ticks up, though streaming still tops market share. So that'll wrap us up today for the Premarket Rundown of February 21st, 2023. As always, if you got literally any piece of valuable information from this, I just ask that, you share it, you show love to the community, right? If you see the YouTube shorts, throw it some emojis, right? Show some love, some likes, some comments. Same thing on Instagram, right? That's really the hub of what I do is on Instagram. So make sure you're following Adam Holland Educates on Instagram. You're showing love there so I can continue to produce this valuable content for you. I get on here every morning for free. I'm fine to do that, right? But if I'm showing love, let's make sure that we're all continuously investing and maintaining each other's financial vitality by having me see some of that love back. Speaking of love, we're going to show a heck of a lot of it tomorrow as we kick off the Market Blueprint Challenge, right? That is going to happen tomorrow night, 6 to 8. If you're not registered for that, bearblueprint.com. You got to be there in that room. I know a lot of you guys are. I'm super excited to have you, but you've got to be registered for that. I don't care if you're starting at ground zero, right? You can come in and still learn things from that. For my people that are starting from ground zero, for my people that, have been trading for a bit, for my people that have been trading for years, you all will get value out of this. This is new stuff I haven't talked about before, that haven't been mentioned, new applications of these tools. Make sure you're there. That's all I can say. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So everybody have a great rest of the day. And I'll see you back here tomorrow morning for our next pre-market rundown. It'll be in a different location, right? I'll be gearing up for the challenge, but still looking to be here. And if, I can't be here, then I'll let you guys know on my Instagram story. But have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning for our next pre-market rundown. Have a good one.